Well, you know it's a bad sign when the best part of your movie is the end credits X-Men commercial. Okay, so maybe that was a bit harsh. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 wasn't bad, just disappointing in my opinion. Anyway, let's start this review. Warning, extreme spoilers ahead. So in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Peter Parker is fighting crime, while also having trouble dealing with the promise he made to Gwen Stacy's father, that he would keep Gwen safe. While chasing down a criminal, he saves a super fan of his called Max Dillon, who then thinks that he and Spidey are best friends. However, a bit later, on Max's birthday, he is electrocuted and falls into a pool of electric eels, which turn him into a being completely comprised of electricity. He goes to Times Square, where he's confronted by the police and Spider-Man. After realizing Spider-Man isn't his best buddy, and mistakenly thinks that he set him up, Max goes out of control but is stopped. He is taken to Oscorp to be experimented on. Meanwhile, Norman Osborn, leader of Oscorp, dies, leaving the company to his 20-year-old son, Harry. Harry is told that the disease that killed his father is genetic, and therefore he's getting the symptoms. After Peter, a childhood friend of his, comes to visit, Harry asks him if he could get some of Spider-Man's blood, the only thing that could cure him. When Peter, then dressed as Spider-Man, refuses, Harry becomes terribly mad. He finds out about Electro and goes to set him free, which he does. The two of them both want revenge on Spider-Man, so they work together to take down the Oscorp staff and find Spidey. Harry then injects himself with a serum that makes him stronger and helps his disease, but also makes him insane. He grabs a suit of armor and a glider and flies off to kill Spider-Man. Electro attacks again, and Spidey is able to stop him with the help of Gwen. However, Harry, or now the Green Goblin, then shows up, and while Spidey's fighting him, spoiler alert, Gwen is killed. Harry gets away, and Peter is distraught. He retires from being Spider-Man for 5 months until he realizes that you can't give up hope. He returns as Spider-Man just as a criminal who he stopped in the beginning of the movie has risen once again. This time, with the help of Harry, who got away, the criminal has a giant mechanized Rhino suit, which he uses to gun down the police. The film ends with Rhino and Spidey charging at one another. There are also a lot of other subplots, but I'll get to this later. Okay, now to the review. I like The Amazing Spider-Man 2 quite a bit. I just think I was so disappointed because, well, it wasn't what I was expecting. This might be my own fault for thinking it would be, well, amazing, but the trailers also hyped it up to be a giant action suspense story. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of action, and that's the highlight of this movie. But there are way too many subplots. The one about Peter's dad just seemed to lead nowhere, and I could not care less about Gwen Stacy going to Oxford. Speaking of Gwen, the worst part of the film, in my opinion, were the parts where Peter and Gwen were talking to each other. I get that they're in love, but come on. Their dialogue was simply terrible, and it just kept going on and on until I was waiting for her to leave to England. But again, this might have just been my own fault for thinking it would be something that it wasn't. Another issue is the pacing. The film is way too long. At the end of his fight with Electro, I thought the movie was over. Then Green Goblin came flying in, and after that was done, I thought the movie was over. Then Rhino came to battle, and then it was over. One thing I thought they should have done was tied in the Electro and Green Goblin fights. Because they built up Electro's character in the beginning as someone who loved Spider-Man, I thought at the end he would realize Spidey was still a good guy and help him fight Goblin, therefore cutting the movie's runtime down a bit. Unfortunately, no such thing happened. Now we've heard about the cons, the pros? Well, like I said, the action was great, as were the visual effects in 3D. All the acting was great from everyone, besides Paul Giamatti as Rhino. I just thought he was overacting a bit too much. I really liked them setting up the Sinister Six, where they said they needed a small group, and then you see Doc Ock's tentacles and the Vulture's wings. But it's not really good if your favorite thing about the film is them setting up the next one. Overall, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was overhyped, too long, and had way too many subplots. It did, however, have some good action, good acting, looked great in 3D, and had a reasonably satisfying ending. I gave The Amazing Spider-Man 2 6 out of 10. I would still recommend seeing this film in theaters, though, if only for the cool visuals and 3D. Hey, today I gave The Amazing Spider-Man 2 a pretty hard time. What did you think of the film if you've seen it? Be sure to tell me in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe.